Hey there, this is the Small Fish, Big Podcast, a show for the gallus few who dream and do. If you're a small biz owner, a creative freelancer, or someone dreaming about leaving your 9-to-5, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I'll chat with an inspiring guest who will share their entrepreneurship story before we delve into a discussion about running a creative business. Thanks for tuning in. Hello and welcome to episode 18 of the Small Fish, Big Podcast. I am your host, Rhiannon. When I am not busy creating podcast episodes, I am a brand photographer and brand and content strategist, working with other small businesses and creative freelancers. So thanks so much for joining us today. If this is your first time listening in, this podcast is all about sharing stories, tips, ideas, and advice, actionable stuff that you can apply to your own business, no matter what stage of business you're in. If you are just dreaming of starting your business, a startup, a growing business, or already well established into your career. If you have listened in before, you'll already know what we're all about. Thanks so much for tuning in again. I really started this podcast because I wanted to share inspiring stories and advice. It can feel quite lonely sometimes as a small business owner, especially if you're a solopreneur. You're working on your own, and I think on the tough days, it can feel like you're a bit alone and nobody else gets it. And I really want this podcast to be a place where you can come and feel like part of a community. So if you could subscribe to the podcast, that would be great. That means that you will get an update every time there is a new episode for you. I think there's also a way to favorite or like your favorite podcast. I'm no expert at this technical stuff, but if you could do either of those things, or if you could leave me a review, that would be a big help in helping to get these stories out more into the world, not just across Scotland, but further abroad as well. Having said all that, let's get back to this week's episode. Today I am joined by Fiona Kirkcaldy, who is a digital marketing freelancer. Hi, Fiona.
Hello.
Hi. So can you tell us a little bit about what you do? Because I know that a digital marketing freelancer encompasses a lot of different things. So tell us a little bit about you and your business.
Sure. So I am a digital marketing freelancer. I work with businesses of all shapes and sizes, B2B and B2C, and I basically step in and help them out when they need a hand with search advertising, social media marketing, copywriting, and SEO. It's really exciting doing all those different stuff. It means I get to work with lots of different interesting clients and do a lot of different interesting things. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
That's really cool. And I like that you found all of these things that really fit in well together so you could help somebody with one of those things or all of those things in one place, which is really nice because sometimes it seems if you're trying to outsource some things or get some help with things, you're having to find so many different people. So I think it's great that you do all of those things and they all tie in so well together.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. It's really useful because you find that even if you are just focusing on one thing, it always like lends itself really well to help out with like other areas and other things that are going on. Like nothing happens in a silo. Like you know that as well, So it's really good being able to like join the dots.
That is great. So I know that you have quite a cool business story, an interesting business story that you've told me a little bit about already. So can you share with us, I guess, how you came up with the idea for your business and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. Well, it's something that I actually didn't set out to do back at the start. So like a lot of people, I went to uni and did something completely different to what I'm doing now. So originally the whole plan was to be a journalist. And I had it in my head, and that's exactly what I was going to do. Went to uni and studied it. And then when I graduated, we were still like deep in the recession. And I just realized like no one was going to hire me. No one was going to pay me. It was not the best. It was not the best life choice. I have so much respect for people like working in the media because it's just such a tough industry to like crack into. So I realized that it wasn't going to go anywhere. So I decided to go back and study marketing because there's quite a lot of transferable skills there. So I did that. I got my start doing SEO and PPC in a digital agency. And then, I was just really lucky. I had a really good team. I had a supportive boss and I just like grew my skill set. I was that person that like whenever like anything needed done, if there was no one to really do it, I'd be like, oh, I'll give it a bash, like I'll try it. It's such a great, because there's so many different clients as well and different needs. It was such a good way to grow my skills and to learn a bit more. And yeah, from then changes moved on. I moved on to like bigger agencies. I worked for Equator for a bit, where I specialised just in social media. And then I decided to see what the other side of the coin was like. So I went in-house, worked for Ashurst, which is a global law firm, did a stint at Tenant Caledonian, which was a lot of fun. And then August last year, I decided to, take the plunge and become a freelancer and start my business. I just kind of saw that there was like a need for someone who can do all the different skills that I can do and who's worked for all the different brands, but who is, a bit more flexible and who's, a one-man band rather than being an agency. So I thought, yeah, let's do this. Let's give it a bash.
So I guess, so last August, so you've just kind of celebrated your first year in business. How was it dealing with the global pandemic in your first year in business?
Unexpected. Unexpected. I'm just laughing because it was so crazy. So I felt like I was just finding my feet. So it was all, and I'm sure most people find this when they're starting a business, you feel like things move so fast. So I really just got my head around, running my own business, getting clients, networking, meeting people, getting my name out there. And then the pandemic hit and things were quiet for a bit. It was a bit crazy, but I think it was just trying to you make the most of what I could actually do, because so much is out of our control. There's so much we can't change. And I think for me, it was really looking a bit inwards and focusing on what can I control, what can I change. And that was, for me, that was trying to spend that time getting my name out there. So speaking to a lot of people, trying to build my networks. And thankfully, and I'm very, very grateful, it's paid off and things have all picked up again and things have been okay and I managed to get through that period okay. But yeah, I just I feel very, I have to say that I do feel very grateful that what I do, you can do working from home. You don't need a fixed office. You can, I managed, after a few quiet months, things managed to pick up again. So even though it was unexpected and a bit crazy and a bit wild, I think I was quite lucky, to be honest.
Well, and I think the thing is, we've all learned to adapt our businesses over this time. So for somebody like you, I mean, that was a tough time for it to happen because, as you say, you were just finding your feet and just kind of figuring out your own way of doing things. And then people like myself who've maybe been in business a few years full time, but we're kind of realizing things are just going to have to change. And then people that are very established in their businesses that maybe have done things that way for 10 or 15 or 20 years and went oh my God, it's such a big change and such a big thing to deal with, but it's definitely kept us all on our toes. I think it's safe to say.
That is such a good way to put it. It honestly is. And that's such a good point too. I think, some people had very established businesses and they had it in their head, this is the way we do things. And when this happened, people who didn't have their online presence sorted or who just weren't using digital marketing, I think for them, it was quite a shock, realizing that that's actually some part of the business and you can't just put it off or say, oh, it's it's other people do it, but it's not for me, because now it was not so much now, but for a while that was the only way you could connect with people, and that's where people were, so I think we made people realize just how important it was, to be honest. And I'm sure for you as well, people were thinking about, oh, I need photos for my website now and I need to really work on my presence.
Absolutely. I think all the people that really hadn't, as you say, kind of put much effort or much time into online went, we need to learn how to do this. So I suppose as much as a pandemic isn't ideal in your first year of business, in some ways, because of what you do, it's maybe actually timed out okay, because a lot of people have realized that they need to maybe start selling online or at least set up social media channels, have a website that looks good. As you say, for myself, I've been doing a lot more product photography this year. So I used to do some little bits and pieces, but it was really more brand photography and getting those business owners in their own space. But I've had loads of people either drop stuff off at my flat or ship stuff to me in the post from all over the place in Scotland, wanting product photos for their website. And it is, people have used this time. Maybe they couldn't be out, like I couldn't be out taking photos the way I normally did. So I was working on my website and my social media. And I think loads of people have done the same. So it's good in the sense that now I feel like my behind the scenes is in place. And similar to what you said about the networking and stuff, I really tried to spend that time like providing valuable info online and making new connections and things like that. So I don't think it's a wasted 5 or 6 months, because I've definitely built up a network and had time to catch up on stuff. It's just not the 6 months I had planned.
No, I mean, what is a plan anymore? I mean, that's a strange word. I mean, no, I think I joke, but I'm like, there's a grain of truth in it. I think I only plan till like the end of the week, and that's pretty much it.
I think that's a good way to be though, because if your plans are too set in stone, then when things happen, I mean, most of us maybe kind of have a weekly plan, as you say, or a monthly plan. Some people are super organized and have like, their next 5 years laid out. I'm not one of those people. I'm definitely more of like a go with the flow sort of person. So for me, as much as it was difficult, I kind of went, all right, this is the way it's going to be for a bit. Whereas I have a few friends who are very organized and very like goal and future sort of oriented, if that's the right word, and they really struggled because it really messed up their plans. So it is definitely good to learn to be flexible, I think.
Yeah, I feel like that's one thing I'm quite grateful about what I do too. I feel like you people who work in my industry were quite good at being adaptable, because you are just kind of used to it. You sort of used to rolling with the punches a little bit. I mean, you'll literally go on and you're just like, oh, what's that? Google's changing the way we do things. Oh, okay, just have to go with that. Oh, what's that? Like, oh, Facebook's doing like a new algorithm change. Right, okay, just gonna have to replan that as well. So everything is like, you do plan, but you always have to be so aware that like, it's almost like you're planning to be adaptable. Does that make sense? Like you're kind of planning to be like, I'm just gonna like, I'm gonna do the best I can right now, but I might have to roll with it and just change these things. And it's good. I think it's a good way to be. I really do. I think it's like, it helps a lot, and I think a lot of people are definitely having to become experts at being adaptable and having to like look at new channels. But it's good that people are doing that, and I think there's a lot. There's kind of weird mix. And again, this is like absolutely I understand it's been so hard for some people, and I'm not trying to be like glib or try to minimize that at all. But some of the clients I've been talking to, there is a wee bit of excitement in looking at new channels, and then looking at almost like the initial, they've kind of moved past that fear, and now it's a bit like, oh, what's next? How is this person going to help me? How is this going to go? Like, and I love that people are embracing that, and I think that's such a great way to look at things. I think it really is.
Oh, I think you're right. And I mean, I think lots of people went through, I don't know if mourning is the right word, but it almost felt like a little bit of a loss at the beginning. Like first it was a loss of freedom, and then a lot of people's businesses were really affected. So, or their jobs or whatever kind of position they were in was really affected. So I think for most people, they had that period of maybe feeling like, this really sucks. Oh shit, what am I gonna do? Like, I think there was a bit of that at first, but you're right. And I feel the same way. Like, this year did not go how I planned. However, I did start some things that I'd been putting off for ages, like this podcast. I kind of did my rebrand a little bit more seriously and did a new website and all these things. So it didn't go as planned, but I totally agree with what you said. I feel excited about the new things that have come out of it and new things that I'm trying and implementing into my business. Even though they're new ideas, I kind of feel almost re-energized, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get that. And it's so strange, because you're so aware this is a pandemic and it's so hard for a lot of people, and again, not minimizing that, but there is that sense of like, ooh, what is next? Like, and it can be quite exciting. I don't think freeing is the right word, but it's almost like freeing is not the right word, but it's almost like being forced into a situation where you just have to be a bit innovative, you have to sort of pivot, you have to change a bit. And I think that more to the point is quite exciting. So kind of, I mean, have we ever been more forced out of our comfort zones? Like you don't have a choice. You just have to kind of push yourself into, after you get over that initial shock, it's like you just have to do something. You just have to push yourself out there. I mean, if you have, again, like we are quite fortunate in that we can work remotely, these things that we can do. So what's the alternative? You know, I mean, we've got bills to pay, so we've just got to get out there and do something about it.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think it's so interesting what you said, you know, about your clients that maybe hadn't been online before. So I know you've already told us a little bit sort of about the different areas